Okay, we're live and we're back after the end of the 2018 season with the New England Patriots, and the most boring Super Bowl in history was played, and they won. Sticking with the Ravens, they ended up, as we all know, 10-6, AFC North champions, and we lost the game to San Diego. That game was a little deceiving with the 23-17 win because the Ravens kind of came back there a little bit in the fourth quarter, but the first three quarters we were pretty well dominated. So we're going to kick off with our first topic for the offseason. And let's go with the biggest elephant in the room, the Joe Flacco trade. So we'll kick off there. Al, I'll kick off with you. Joe Flacco getting traded to the Denver Broncos. What are your thoughts there?
I mean, the Joe Flacco trade was pretty much inevitable. I think everybody knew it was coming. Everybody knew that the Ravens' intent was to transition to Lamar once they got out of the Joe Flacco contract, which and I think a lot of people thought he was going to get released. I mean, myself being one of them, but they were able to find a trade partner, and they found a trade partner pretty quick in the Broncos, which was nice to get a fourth rounder. I was hoping it was going to be a third rounder, but since the Super Bowl run, I mean, Joe's been average at best, and Joe's 34 years old now. Joe's not getting any better. I mean, you know, go Broncos. I mean, maybe they get a little bit more out of him, and that seems to be the talk. But I think DaCosta did a great job with getting a pretty good pick for a guy that everybody knew the Ravens were cutting at the end of the year, at the start of the league year. So I think a nice job for the Ravens, and now you've just got to build around Lamar Jackson. That's going to be the key. Can they put an offense together that really helps to highlight his strengths and keeps the Ravens competitive?
All right. Vince, Joe Flacco traded. What are your thoughts with him going to Denver? Is a fourth round pick good? Should have gotten more? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm definitely with Al here. Obviously it was a foregone conclusion at the end of the year that we were going to move on from Joe. So, looking back, I think a fourth round is very solid compensation for a guy that the entire league knew we were going to move on from. So, I think we all had wishful thinking of a day two pick, but the reality is you look at what's happening with Philly and Nick Foles, and they just said today that they're going to let him hit free agency. They're claiming it's to do right by Foles, but the bottom line is they probably couldn't find a trade partner. So, and they couldn't get it with with contract. So, I think it's a good deal for us. Get a fourth round pick. To be able to move on. And who knows? I mean, we'll see what happens with Joe there. I think he could, with the right pieces, get a fresh start. But I think Denver is kind of. I think this is Elway kind of making a last stand here in terms of uh, clearly a bunch of QB mistakes that he's made both in the draft and in free agency. So, I think he felt desperate to make a move quickly. And that's probably why he ended up pulling the trigger on a fourth round pick, this early in the process. And I think DaCosta was smart to say, look, I'm going to get out in front of the carousel because you still got at the time you had Foles out there as a possible trade. Ryan Tannehill's another one that's probably either trade or cut from Miami. You got Teddy Bridgewater, a few other quarterbacks that you're kind of looking to shuffle the decks and find a home for. So I think DaCosta was very smart in pulling the trigger and making it happen, but. I think at the end of the day, it was a foregone conclusion that he was gone. So I'm just glad we got compensation. And, at this point, it's Lamar. It's ready. We have to we have to go all in. And now we are, we're in a situation where we have a quarterback on a rookie contract, and that's, to me is now the formula that is the biggest, that can be successful in the league. I mean, I think a quarterback on a rookie contract is probably the biggest advantage any NFL team can have cap wise. So, we'll get into cap talk later, but I think, now this year we're going to have to kind of eat our lumps with a bunch of dead money. Obviously, I mean, we got 16 million in dead money for Flacco. That number is only going to go up another almost 5 million for Crabtree. And then who knows where some of the other moves, Jimmy Smith, et cetera. So, the books are going to look a little ugly this year in terms of the dead money, but we're now setting ourselves up to really make the transition this year. And then hopefully we have 3 more years of Lamar in that rookie contract, and we can really set ourselves up to make a run and really add a bunch of pieces to the puzzle while we still have Lamar under a rookie contract. So good move all around, and, we'll see where it goes.
All right, Bill. Joe Flacco trade, Broncos was a 4th round, a good pick. Did you expect higher? What are your thoughts there?
I think I pretty much echo what everybody said. I hoped that we would get a 3rd. I thought we might get a 3rd. I thought that was probably around the right value. But I give DeCosta credit for getting anything at all. I wish they had not said in like the postseason press conferences, yeah, we're gonna get rid of him, because that just opens the door for everybody to just be like, man, I'm just gonna wait until he's a free agent. Why would I take on that albatross of a contract? But a 4th round pick is perfectly reasonable, and as much as I scoff at Philadelphia saying that they're going to do right by Nick Foles, it's just they couldn't. Their salary cap is a fucking mess. They can't afford to put the franchise tag on Nick Foles, or else they'd have to make cuts elsewhere. Is the only reason that they did not put the franchise tag on Nick Foles, to try to trade him for something. But yeah, that's money. But as much as I scoff at the Eagles doing it, I actually think that the Ravens probably talked to Flacco and said, where do you want to go? Because Denver is a pretty good team. Like, I'm not saying that Flacco is any great shakes. I was a big proponent of getting rid of him. He has been below average from my perspective since the Super Bowl win, obviously. Since Kubiak left. The Kubiak year, he was good. But other than that, he's been bad. And so but I actually think he has a decent chance to be all right in Denver. They've got weapons. Their defense is legit. And like, you never know. Like, Flacco has played his best ball in the biggest moments, and I think he likes sticking it up the ass of anybody that tells him he can't do it. And so the fact that we're trading him for a guy that half the league perceives as not being able to throw the ball is a slight to Flacco. And I think Elway's going to get his absolute best this year. So we'll see. I think Denver's a dark horse Super Bowl candidate for me. I might put a little bet on that just because I want to, because part of me still loves Joe Flacco because we won the Super Bowl with him. And I'm like, man, this miracle's happened in Denver. You never know. Might catch lightning in the ball twice. So, yeah, I give DeCosta credit. I'm happy with the 4th round pick. I wish it was the 3rd. And we better hit on a wide receiver in this draft.
All right. Joe Flacco getting traded, I guess, from my perspective, is the fact that we got a 4th round pick. I think you're right. I think they kind of knew Nick Foles was going to hit the open market because they couldn't afford him, and get out ahead of it and get Flacco off the books with a 4th round pick. That's fine with me. We've hit guys in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round in the past few drafts, so we've done a really good job. So clearing $10 million off the books, getting him out of here, and giving him a fresh start. Sure. I mean, Philip Lindsay's a good running back. They have a good defense. It kind of adds up to a Joe Flacco's type team. John Elway there, I'm pretty sure he'll be able to assist with making Flacco a better quarterback. All right, we'll move on from good old Joe Flacco, and let's move on to Eric DeCosta. Since we all know Ozzie so well, we don't know Eric as well. And this is his first year in as GM. So I'll start off with Vince. Any what's your feeling with DaCosta? What is he going to do in this offseason? Is he retooling? Is he rebuilding? What is he going to do, this team?
Yeah, so, I mean, you say we don't know DaCosta, but, I mean, he's been with this team since pretty much day one. He's an Ozzie disciple. He started in this organization as, I forget what they call him, but one of those rats that just, cut up video and run and get lunch for the GMs. And so, I mean, this guy has started from the ground up with this organization. He was taught the Ozzie philosophy. He only knows our way of building a team. So I think really at the end of the day, you're not going to see a ton different philosophically in what we're doing. So what does that mean? It means we will still build through the draft. It means we are not going to make a ton of crazy splashes in free agency. We know that the formula for sustained success in this league happens through the draft. It happens through being able to pick your spots in free agency and find value, particularly with either guys that get cut because they don't impact the comp formula, and with veterans that kind of have something to prove, that, have kind of, you can get at a good value. We're not going to get the guys that are, the top of the market guys. That's just not how we operate. So, to think that Eric is all of a sudden going to have a fundamental shift in the Ravens philosophy, I think is silly, because the guy came up in our organization. He's been born and raised under Ozzie's tutelage and the Ravens way. So I expect largely more of the same. I think the one thing that I am excited about with Eric that you will definitely see more of is there will be a lot more analytics involved in our decision-making process. And I think that's something that even Ozzie to a man said that, he was slow to embrace, because, Ozzie came from the old school scouting. You got to see it with your eyes, and you trust the instincts of the scouts and what they see and how they evaluate and things like that. And, that'll still be obviously fundamental to the process, because we have a very strong scouting department. And the key with our scouting department that's so much different than other teams is that we spend so much time teaching our scouts what we're looking for. And they go out and they look for traits. They don't look for, the sexy production guys. They don't focus on where you came from. They have core beliefs about what they want in a player, and they tell the scouts to go find them. So, I think what Eric will bring, though, is the analytics side of it. So more of understanding how to factor in some of the combine times and some of the workouts and how that's a predictor for success. I mean, you can, there's a lot of good information out there about, even some of the combine drills like shuttle times and how they're a predictor for success for offensive linemen, and the 3-cone drill for edge rushers being a big predictor. So I can see Eric building out more analytics, both in what we do on the scouting side and with the personnel coaching side. So I think that's where DaCosta is going to bring some of that new school, approach to things that I think will help us. And I sure hope it helps us in some of our weak positions, like wide receiver, for one. But, I think fundamentally speaking, I don't think the common fan is going to notice much of a difference in our approach. I mean, we're going to still build through the draft. We're going to work the comp formula. We're going to be smart about who we sign in free agency. We're going to look to keep our own guys as much as possible. And I think you might even see a little bit more of that. I think Ozzie was very much a right player, right place kind of guy, where I think Eric might see more value in retaining some of our guys. And hopefully we've seen it already with the Tavon Young extension, the philosophy of locking these guys up before they get to the last year of their rookie contract. I think that is something that if I had to fault Ozzie for anything, it was not doing that enough. And I think part of that was a function of our cap situation, obviously, but I think part of it was just kind of that right player, right price approach. And we're just going to see where the market is, and we'll make a decision at that point, where I think DaCosta is going to be a little more aggressive in locking up some of these young guys that we know are the future, that we can get at a discount if we get them before their end of the rookie contract. So, the only two things for me are the analytics a little bit, the new school approach. He's going to work that in, and then hopefully locking up some of our younger guys. But in terms of overall philosophy of the team, that's not going to change.
I want to piggyback right on a couple points, because I had one extra thing to say about each of those.
Well, hold on. Just go ahead and go.
Okay. Not only the analytics aspect, not only is it like you could look at the whole picture. It's not only, this offensive lineman has this 3-cone drill, and so it's predictive of this success, but you could also say if player X has a poor 3-cone drill, but you really like him on film, they can tell you, based upon, he didn't run quite as well at this and didn't have quite the vertical that we thought he'd have and blah, blah, blah. You can predict, that's going to make him slide 10 to 15 places lower than what you may have had him ranked before. Like it's the whole ball game. So it's not only influencing player evaluations in some way by saying, these triangle numbers are predictive of success on the field. It's also helping you get the player at the value that you really ought to get him at, as opposed to being like, I just want him, and having to trade up or whatever, when because of those numbers didn't quite align with what you were looking at, he might slide down the board a little bit, and instead of getting him in the second round, you might get him in third, or instead of getting him in the fourth round, you might get him at the beginning of the fifth or whatever. So it's that way. And then on the contract front, as far as locking our young guys up, I'm a big fan of Tavon Young, so I was happy to see him in particular get locked up. But I also like, just in general, the structure of the contract is dead flat. It's whatever his contract was, $2.5 million or something. The bump that he got from what his last year of the rookie deal was supposed to be is the same. And then the next 3 years are basically exactly the same. It's like $8 million and change or something each year, and it's all cash. I love the structure of the deal. I love it. So if that's what DaCosta is going to continue, if we're going to see those things in addition to what all of the great stuff that Ozzie did over the years, obviously with just a gut feeling about a player, man, I'm excited. Sky's the limit.
Okay, Al, go ahead. Your thoughts on Eric DaCosta.
I mean, I like DaCosta. I think, like most Ravens fans, excited for him to come in. I think Bill and Vince kind of touched on a lot of the points that you like about DaCosta. I mean, trying to use some analytics. The Tavon Young deal was huge. I mean, DaCosta's really gotten right to work at the start of the offseason. I mean, he gets the Joe Flacco trade done. He locks up one of the young, core pieces of the defense. And by all accounts, as we go into the combine weekend, which is really the big weekend to negotiate with your stars, he's prepared to really try to get a deal done with CJ Mosley. From the sounds of it, it looks like they're going to have a few more discussions. So, I'm excited for what I think DaCosta can bring. I mean, I think he'll bring a bit of a fresh look to things coming in as the new GM, and really, I think just from the competitive side of it, wanting to do well. He stayed here in Baltimore despite other offers really every year from other teams. So this is a guy that wants to be here. He wants to stay here. He wants to do well. And I mean, like any sort of, mentee with a mentor, I mean, Ozzie's kind of had him under his wing for years. I mean, he wants to, I would think he wants to, outpace and kind of do a little bit better than what even Ozzie did here. So I mean that really starts with drafting some great players that can help this team, and then really winning the Super Bowl. So I hope it's the same thing to bring to put a good team around Lamar Jackson, and I think that's going to be his focus. I think it's just how they decide to do that. And I think when we start talking a little bit about the draft and free agency, we'll be able to talk through some of those things. But um, I'm excited for the new era, the Lamar Jackson era, the Eric DeCosta era, and really just to see where it goes.
Okay. My thoughts here. I agree with everybody. I like Eric DeCosta as well. I'm glad he's taken over as GM. I think my thoughts are I don't know his philosophy. I can't agree with you guys yet until I actually see it in practice. I do like the contract structure on Tavon Young. Obviously, we're all big fans of his. We're glad we kept him. CJ Mosley, he's the captain of that defense. I'm going to be very honest. When he was out for a few games, that defense kind of fell apart out there. CJ Mosley is definitely a big player, and I'll agree. I think he'll lock him up. Judon, some other guys coming up, and we'll get into that later on. But I'm pretty sure he'll go after some of the players that are homegrown that he wants to keep. My interesting thing about him is, what is he going to do in free agency? Is he looking at it with, do I need to get somebody to get in here and help Lamar? That could be offensive line, that could be defense for an Earl Thomas or somebody. That could be a running back. I don't know. So I'm pretty anxious and excited to actually see what he does in this offseason, to start kind of gauging how he's going to start building this team up and what he's going to be doing. Obviously, some people don't like Lamar Jackson, and there are people out there who don't, but he's on a rookie deal. So he's got 4 years on a very cheap contract to build a team around him. If he doesn't like him, he can get another quarterback, right? Or if he starts getting injured a lot. But I think my feelings with DeCosta is, I think he's the kind of guy who goes into a draft. He likes the young guys. They're cheaper. He likes to develop that type of team, more drafted team. And I'm sure he's not a real big fan of, let's bring in some 30-year-old wide receivers and let's bring in some veterans to kind of mix in like Ozzie did. I think he's a bigger fan of, let me get some young guys. Let me build up this team. Let me get some cap space money free and kind of pay these guys and maybe get a veteran or two here and there. I think he's more on the younger side. So I'm pretty excited to see him come in, see what he's going to do for Lamar. And that kind of leads us into our next kind of segment there. I think we'll start with free agency. Since free agency is coming up, who do the Ravens keep on this team? Eric Weddle, Jimmy Smith. Is there going to be a trade there? And does he go after a big agent, a big name in free agency? So I'll kick it off with Bill. I'll let you take this one first. What do you think he's going to do for agency? I think he's going to keep Suggs, obviously. There's big rumors about that. But what do you think in this free agency period? So you're going to just kind of sign some of our own guys and just go into the draft? Or is there anybody you think out there is a free agent he wants to bring in? It could be defense, offense, offensive line, whatever.
As far as our own guys, I would very much like to keep Zadarius Smith. I think he is an ascending player. Him and whatever the other guy from Kentucky who went to Pittsburgh in the same draft. I can't remember his name now. The other pass rusher that plays for Pittsburgh. Him and that guy went to Kentucky at the same time. Do you know who it is, Vince?
Bud Dupree.
Bud Dupree, thank you. I couldn't remember his name. Him and Bud Dupree. And Bud Dupree was like the sexier of the two. He was the one that was flash. He was more fast. He was more bendy around the edge, whatever. But Zadarius Smith always did the dirty work on that defensive line. And I liked him coming out. I was very happy that we took him. And I think he's getting better. He's gotten leaner since he was at Kentucky. He's learned a lot from Suggs. And I want to keep him. I don't know how much it's going to cost, but we are aided this year by there being a significant group of pass rushers out there in free agency. I don't know if any of the other GMs are going to be saying exactly the same thing that I'm saying, and they're super interested in Zadarius Smith. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know what his price is going to be. Obviously, if it's like a Paul Kruger type situation, we can't pay top of the market dollar for a pass rusher, whatever $100 million contract or whatever ridiculous number. But if the DeMarcus Lawrence and D Ford and Justin Houston and whoever else is out there as pass rushers get get all the big money, and Zadarius Smith's sitting there looking like, where's my chair in the musical chairs? I would love to get a little bit of home cooking from him because I think he fits our defense perfect. He plays on the outside on rundowns. He plays on the inside on pass downs. If any of our pass rushers ever work out, if Tim Williams gets his head out of his ass or Bowser decides to finally show up, whatever, if any of those guys or somebody we might draft, whatever, are like a speed rusher, Zadarius just slide right in on the inside and let him pass rush from the outside. So I'm hoping we'll see what the contract does. But as far as the tendering of our restricted free agents, I hope they put Pierce at a second round level. I would love to entice an offer for Pierce. And the benefits of that would be twofold. If the contract, if somebody's like, well, we're willing to pay a second round pick, but we're trying to craft the contract very carefully because we want it to be good on our end, then we can match the contract and just be like, great, got Pierce at a nice deal, whatever. And if it's like a mega deal, then we take a second round pick. And like people poo Brandon Williams, but he's a good player. He might not be as good as Pierce, and that's the way it goes. We gave him the contract we gave him, and that's the way it goes. But, Pierce is a nice player, and I'd like to get him on a nice contract because next offseason we might be able to move Brandon Williams and play Pierce full time. But I like them both together. I like the rotation that we get out of it with, like, keeping everybody fresh and all that stuff. So we'll see how the money shakes out. Obviously, this year is not next year. We're going to have a boatload of money next year. And this year we're going to be a little bit tighter. We'll see how it works out. As far as other free agents around the outside of the league, the only one I'm really interested in is the Honey Badger. Give me the Badger. Put him back there with Jefferson and Weddle. I don't know how all that shakes out, whatever. But the Badger makes plays. Give me the Badger.
All right, hang on. Let me throw my question to you. Are you cutting Eric Weddle for the Badger?
I would be more inclined to cut Tony Jefferson, honest to God. But yeah, I mean, because of the money situation, the contract, we couldn't get rid of Jefferson if we wanted to, like today. And so I don't know. I mean, Weddle's only got one more year in him. It's going to depend on how the dollars shake out. I mean, the Badger played for $7 million last year. 1 year, $7 million. He's probably looking at a bump. So 2 years, 15, 2 years, 18, I don't know. I don't know how it works out, but Weddle's only got one more year in him. I'd like to keep Weddle if I can, if it's not, but I'm not playing Weddle in the deep third anymore. We need a true free safety to play the deep half of the field because Weddle can't do it. He doesn't have the speed anymore. I still like him on the field as a general. I still like the way he plays the chess match. I love what he brings to the team, but he can't play the deep. He can't play deep coverage anymore.
All right, Al, you're up. Free agents, who you're going to keep? Is there anybody out there you really want on this team?
Okay, so free agents that I'm keeping, there's a lot of tough decisions to make, and the decision I think really that's at the top of the house right now, obviously, is the C.J. Mosley decision. I think everybody wants to see Mosley come back. I think it was Vince that made the point the other day. We saw what this defense looked like without CJ. So you need to bring him back. He's the first guy that I want back. If we're just talking about other guys on the team right now, I'd like to see Suggs come back as well. I think he's just a great leader on this defense, and they have got to figure out a way to groom some pass rushers. Because I don't think the Ravens are going to be able to re-sign Zadarius Smith. I just think he's going to be way out of their price range, and here's why: the Cowboys, by all intents, are probably going to franchise tag DeMarcus Lawrence. Everything out of Houston is saying that they're going to franchise tag Jadeveon Clowney. Everything out of Atlanta is saying they're going to franchise tag Grady Jarrett. Everything out of Houston, including the fact that they are trying to actively trade Justin Houston, says they are going to either sign or tag D Ford. That is those are your top pass rushers. And then you start to get down to guys the likes of Frank Clark in Seattle. He's going to get tagged by all of the words out of Seattle. And then you're looking at guys like Anthony Barr, and you're looking at Zadarius Smith, are the next level of edge rushers who are out there, because Brandon Graham's old. He's 31 now. Zadarius Smith is going to get ready to get a lot of money, and I would not be surprised if he's getting a lot more money than what McPhee got, than what Kruger got. Um, another team is looking for a pass rusher, and they're gonna pay him. Um, they're gonna I just that's just what I think. I mean, whether it's a team like the Jets, whether it's a team like the Raiders, somebody's gonna pay Zadarius Smith some money to come there and rush the quarterback. So I just don't think Zadarius is back. Not because I don't want him. I just don't think the Ravens can afford him. So on to guys like Eric Weddle. I think you've got to cut Eric Weddle. I think Eric Weddle is a great football player. Um, he's still got it in terms of play recognition and things like that. But it's a lot like what we saw out of Ray Lewis at the end of his career. The recognition was there, but they just didn't have the athletic ability to get there anymore. And that starts to become a problem late in your career and a team when you've got a team that's really trying to depend on this guy. Um, I don't know if I'm necessarily bringing in the honey badger, and the only people that know the answer to this question is the Ravens coaching staff. 'Cause I don't know what they have in a guy like a Deshaun Elliott that they saw during the offseason last year, who I thought was pretty good at Texas, and I think could probably come in and be a solid safety for them. Or can Chuck Clark come in and be the guy for them as well? I thought he played well in a few spot starts last year and just some when guys going down with injury. Um, so so I don't know, but I think it's time for Eric Weddle to either take a pay cut or you've got to free up some cap space to get rid of Eric Weddle because the Ravens are in a bit of a tough spot at wide receiver because there's not going to be any great wide receivers out there unless somebody gets cut or they make a trade for Odell Beckham. So they are probably going to have to draft a receiver in the first round of the draft. Um, because I don't know who they're going to get if they have to wait until that first pick in the third round. So I think they're going to end up probably drafting a receiver in the first round. Is my thought because there's nobody out there in a free agent market. So who do I want to see the Ravens draft or excuse me sign in free agency? Um, Matt Paradis is the guy that I like at center. I heard some talk by some of the talking heads. Mitch Morris, the center out of Kansas City, is a free agent, and he missed some time last year. Paradis is coming off an injury too, but he could come in and play center for the Ravens, and then you could draft a guard or kind of go with maybe one of the guys that you already have if you can move him over to guard. He'd be a guy that's kind of at the top of my list, but a couple under the radar guys, and I won't be surprised if Rob mentions this guy. Rob, your guy Marcus Hunt, the 6'9" rugby star, whoever he was, he had a heck of a season last year in Indy. So he's a guy that's going to be out there as a free agent, and I think I said this name before already. Ha Clinton Dix, like I don't know what's up with this guy. He was a pretty solid player in Green Bay, and I don't know if it's just Green Bay didn't want to pay him, um, or what the deal was. And then Washington, by all accounts, it seems like they're going to let him go, and they traded DJ Swearinger. Um, I'd like to take a run at him, and maybe Devin Funchess on a team friendly deal because I think he might be a guy. He's played tight end in college that can come out and actually block and be a blocker in this offense that we have. But
Hey, Al, let me ask you a question.
yeah,
Do you trade Jimmy Smith on this team for another player that you want to bring in?
there's going to be a market for Jimmy Smith. I'll say that much because the cornerback market this year is pretty weak. So I definitely think there's going to be a market. I think the top cornerback on the market might be Ronald Darby, maybe, and I think he's coming off an injury in Philly. I think he's probably the top corner on the market, unless there's somebody else out there that's
Kareem
better.
Jackson's out there, just to let you know.
How old is Kareem Jackson though?
Yeah, he's like 30, I think, maybe.
All right, so Jimmy Smith's coming into that 30 year range too. What do you? I don't know. I think maybe you could get a fourth rounder for Jimmy Smith,
But
fourth or a fifth.
we would definitely come back to that question, see what you could get for him. But I was asking if you could trade Jimmy Smith for another player you want to get on this team, who would that player be?
Odell Beckham. That's what I'm trading for.
All right, let me give it up to Vince.
That's not happening.
Let me give it up to Vince. All right, Vince, free agent, who you keeping? And there's one free agent out there. Who do you want to sign?
I don't know if I can get over here and about Odell Beckham, man. Shit, that would be. Imagine him coming here. That would be a mess, an absolute mess. So I think in terms of some of our guys first, I'm going to focus mainly there. Zadarius Smith, I think is a classic example of how we're going to let somebody get out of the building because we're going to get priced out. I mean, I completely agree with, I think Al said it. So, unfortunately, I would love to re-sign him. I think it seems like we at least will try to make a decent run at him. So really hope that happens because, he's such a dominant force for us because of his inside pass rush. And that's just something that we will lose a lot if we be of that interior rush. We really don't. Everyone's like, well, some of the edge guys. I'm like, forget that. It's the interior pass rush because you have Pierce and Williams. They are great at what they do, but when you need that pass rush in sub packages, him penetrating up the middle, causing havoc. I mean, it's not even the numbers with him. If you just look at the number of plays he disrupts, it's insane. So, unfortunately, I think this is one where this is hopefully what will change under Eric. We should have locked him up last year, and when he was showing that signs of breakout, and now he's going to get Pernell McPhee money, and we're going to end up losing him, I think. So, in terms of Jimmy, I think he is one where I think you got to either renegotiate and either extend and get the cap number down and say, all right, and it'll have to be a low risk extension where we can get out after a year. But either that or I think you got to work a trade. I mean, he is too valuable of a corner to just cut. That's for damn sure. I am not releasing Jimmy Smith under any circumstance. So, I think he is way too valuable of a football player for that. So I think to me, I don't know why I wouldn't take a fourth rounder. I would want at least a second or third rounder. And I understand the injury history and the unreliability. And look, he hasn't fully met our expectations. But when you look at it, the landscape of cornerbacks, there are not a lot of great cornerbacks. And when he's on the field, he's at best a low end one as a quarterback or corner. So we'll see what happens there. Weddle is one that I think I want to try to retain, but I do agree that he's lost a step to a certain degree, but I still think he's valuable enough where I wouldn't be that upset if we ended up keeping him. I mean, in all honesty, my default position is to keep this defense together. So I'm really hoping we do that. And I don't see the need, everyone's talking about, trying to, and then CJ, I mean, you hear a lot of the talking heads and they're wanting to remake the whole defense. And I'm like, I do not understand that thought process whatsoever. So I'm trying to retain them all. And then, I will see about free agency based on how, successful we are or how we maneuver these next 3 weeks. It's definitely going to be very interesting to see how it turns out.
Okay, let me throw a question for you. You didn't say what free agent you would sign. If you could, that's out there. So we'll hit you. Answer that question first. I'll come back with my last one for you. If there's
I'm not in love with any free agents that are out there. I mean, Haha is interesting to me. I think if we do lose Weddle, particularly, then I think that does make a ton of sense. He can kind of play that rangy safety role that we would need. So he would be one that I'd be interested in if we lost Leno.
Okay, fair enough. All right, here's my question for you. If the Eagles, who need defensive back help, came in for a trade, would you trade for a player or a draft pick? And if you trade for a player, what player?
I would trade him for Nelson Aguilar. I would love that. I think he's a really solid receiver that's breaking out, and he's the type of receiver that, frankly, we're going to need to attract in with Lamar. Like the kind of receiver that is not going to whine about, not getting the ball certain times. He's going to, do the dirty work, and just do his job. So I think that would be a great trade for us.
Okay. All right, my turn. My thoughts.
Sorry, just to jump in. Sorry, Rob. Before you go, there's a report out there today that Aguilar is on the block. So, like I said, the Eagles, they do not have a good spot. They do not have a good cap situation. So,
yeah. Vince, that report's from your guy locking forward too.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind.
All right, I'll go. I'll go over my thoughts there. So, I'll agree. Zadarius Smith is most likely gone, but any Raven that leaves this team as a pass rusher has typically done crap outside Baltimore, so I'm not worried about it. I feel bad for the team that signs him because they're going to get crap out of him. You have Bowser, you have Tim Williams. They're going to keep Suggs. They have Judon. They have some pass rushers there. They have guys that can get to the football. I'm not so concerned with Zadarius Smith. They're going to keep C.J. Mosley. Obviously, he's the captain of the defense. Where it really comes down to, I agree with Weddle and Jimmy Smith. Look, I like Jimmy Smith a lot. I was so happy when we drafted that guy. But at this point in time, the injuries, and you have Humphrey, who's really come in on his own, I think it's time to move him to the one. I would trade Jimmy Smith. I would put him out there on a trade and try to get a second or third round pick for him, kind of clear some money off the books as well. And if I can do that, I'm going to go for my top free agent. That's Le'Veon Bell. Regardless of what a lot of people think of not signing that guy, having Lamar Jackson in the backfield with Le'Veon Bell, having him back there with Gus, that is a three-headed monster that no defense wants to see. So I would be very excited to get Le'Veon Bell and fix the offensive line. And free agents, if they can get another guy to come in cheap, for a guard, and then go into the draft and pick up some very good offensive linemen. We'll come back to the draft in a second. But free agency-wise, I'm making moves to get Le'Veon Bell on this team. That's just, to me, is what this team is about. We like to run the football, and we like to play great defense. And I think a lot of people are very hooked on this wide receiver deal. Well, Lamar Jackson in college spread the football around a whole lot. He usually went to 4 or 5 different receivers. But mainly, he likes his tight ends, and we have 2 very good tight ends on this team. We also drafted 2 wide receivers last year that we haven't seen. We also have Chris Moore on this team, who's never been given that opportunity to really play number 2, number 1 wide receiver position. So I'm not as concerned as most other Ravens fans are in the wide receiver area. I think we have some guys on this team. They're going to draft a guy, and we'll get to that. But Le'Veon Bell, to me, makes this team extremely dangerous. That's my free agent I would be going after. I would trade Jimmy Smith, cleared all extra money up. I get Le'Veon Bell on this team because all of a sudden, shit, you better watch out there, defenses, because this team's going to run for like 3,000 yards on your ass, and you're not going to be happy about that. The Ravens will own the time of possession. And I agree. I think Eric DeCosta will do his best to keep this defense together. All right, we're going to move on to the draft itself.
Whoa. We're not glossing over this Le'Veon Bell nonsense.
Yeah. All right.
Hold on. Let's just go one at a time. Al, you single in. Go ahead. Hit it. Rebuttal me.
First of all, Rob, for the obvious reasons, this is so much of a non-Raven move. When was the last time you saw the Ravens break the bank for a guy that wants to be one of the highest paid, wants to be the highest paid player in the league, period. Like the Gurley contract isn't even the starting point for Le'Veon Bell. I mean, this guy wants Le'Veon Bell wants a lot of money, and yes, arguably he is one of the best running backs in football, if not the best running back in football, with the run catch combination. But for the Ravens, Rob, I think the thing that you don't see is his style doesn't fit what the Ravens do. Le'Veon is a let me get up to the line. I'm gonna look. I'm gonna pick my hole, and then I'm gonna go. He's always been applauded as a very patient runner. He's not gonna have that ability behind this Ravens offensive line. This Ravens offensive line can hold those blocks long enough for him to get through the line, and that's it. Like, this isn't the old '90s Cowboys offensive lines where they were opening up, holes as wide as 695 for Emmitt Smith to run through. It's not gonna be that. So
hang on. Let me say that I said you're gonna fix this offensive line through the draft. Remember, they're gonna make the offensive line better. I said,
Rob, you're not bringing in two rookies that are gonna fix this offensive line.
But you're gonna
Let's
tell
be
me
honest. The Ravens have got to sign at least one offensive lineman in free agency this year. They've got to bring in somebody that can be a starter for them, preferably at the center spot, because I think you can transition a rookie into the guard spot on this offense a little easier, or maybe you're able to get in that weight room and bring along a Bradley Bozeman or a Matt Skura or one of those guys. But who else are you cutting, Rob, to bring Le'Veon Bell here?
Oh, hang on. See, that's where you're not looking at the numbers correctly. Remember, if I said if you trade Jimmy Smith, you're going to clear some money up off the books. Look, you don't have to pay him $15 million this year. You can get away with $7 or $8 million.
No, you can't, Rob. He's not taking a low end. He wants to be paid a lot in those first 3 years.
Wait, you're not listening. Let me finish.
He's not.
You got to let me finish. The Ravens actually, cap number wise, have over $90 million available next year. Now, someone's going to eat up by.
He's not taking a backloaded contract. He wants a lot of money right now.
But you're still not listening. That's still next year. That's still within the 3 years. You can get away with $8 million this year, a $20 million next year, and a $25 million in the third year for Le'Veon Bell. But look, what you're going to look at defensively is having Le'Veon Bell in the backfield on one side. If you have Gus on the other side, plus you have Jackson, you can't fight Jackson. This is going to be very difficult for defenses to actually come after this guy. Now, hey, I'm okay with the laughs. You know why? Because last year I got laughed at about Lamar. I'm fine with the laughs. I always get proven right. So, in my opinion, I'm looking to trade Jimmy. I'm looking to get Le'Veon Bell on this team. You can laugh all you want. I'm okay with that.
Wow. Who laughed at you about Lamar? I certainly didn't laugh at you about Lamar. I wanted Lamar too. I don't understand. I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing because you're like the eternal optimist. It's like, I understand that you want Le'Veon Bell. God knows Le'Veon Bell is a very good player. I would like Le'Veon Bell, but the outrageous amount of money that he's going to get is, I mean, even though you're like, yes, in all things being equal, if you could spread it out, I understand that the contract can be structured a certain way if the player is amenable to that. But this player in particular has said no. 2 years in a row, he was like, "No, I'm not taking a 1-year contract. I'm not taking a 1-year contract. I want my payday right now because any second now I could get injured." So he's going to want an enormous bonus, which yes gets spread over the entire life of the contract, but he's also going to want an enormous first-year number. He wants real cash money in my pocket today, and that's just not our situation. I want him to, Rob. It is just not in the cards. We are going to sign CJ Mosley to a top of the market type deal for an inside linebacker. It is going to happen. Like, I mean, I saw some stats today about the fact that Mosley and Kuechly are the only two linebackers that had over 500 tackles and over 8 interceptions or 4 interceptions or something, and over 8 sacks or 4 sacks or something. There was only 2 of them, and it was Kuechly and Mosley, and that's it. And I mean, he is the linchpin of our defense. I swear to God, I had this conversation with somebody else who's a Ravens fan out here, and he was making the case that Mosley wasn't that great. And I was like, dude, if we had not lived through Ray Lewis, Like if we were like, I don't know, the Tennessee Titans or something, there would be no question that he was the best linebacker we'd ever have. Like unless you were either the Bears with Urlacher, the Bucks with Derek Brooks, or the Ravens. And other than that, in our generation, he would be the best linebacker that had ever played for your team. And if we hadn't lived through Ray Lewis, we would recognize that C.J. Mosley's one of the elite players in the league. People were shitting all over him. Oh, he can't cover, et cetera, et cetera. That dude came back from an injury after like 2 games and was playing hurt for like the first 4 weeks he was back. Like the unrealistic expectations make me crazy. So yeah, we just don't. We're not gonna have the money. We're not gonna have the money to do it. I don't want him to, Rob. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah,
okay, Vince do his rebuttal. Go ahead, Vince.
Real quick, first of all, I mean that could not have been better said about C.J. Mosley. That is the exact same argument I've made. You know, people that actually shit on C.J. Mosley, like, you have to be out of your mind, literally. I mean, he is one of the best linebackers. Yeah, okay. He's not Ray Lewis. We're all chasing that ghost, but you said it. I don't have to say it anymore. So I'm just making one quick point because everyone else made the points. But schematically, Le'Veon Bell, and Al was saying it, is not right for us. The read option, that dive is the first part and the most critical part of that read option. And you're not paying Le'Veon Bell $28 million, whatever, crazy money, $80 million to run dives in the read option. You do not need Le'Veon Bell's skill set for that. And I think at the end, you need a north-south runner as the base of that play. So the fact that we would even consider allocating that much to the running back position, which I think with Lamar, look, Gus Edwards ran for how many yards? I mean, Gus Edwards, he was tearing up, and it's because of the scheme. It has nothing to do with having a great running back. And I think there's no reason why you can't expand on that. I'm not saying you can't improve the talent of the running back position. I'm saying you do not need to invest a quarter of your cap or whatever the hell it's going to be, or an eighth of your cap on that position. You just cannot do it.
That's the most important point, is the contract, because what we're doing is maximizing our value while our quarterback's contract is cheap. We just got rid of Flacco. We're basically, we would be switching Flacco's contract for Le'Veon Bell. That's all we would be doing. It takes away all that leeway of the money that allows us to surround Lamar with talent. Like it busts our nut on one player. That's it. We got one player and we're swapping Flacco for Le'Veon Bell. And all right, that makes our roster better. But that doesn't allow us to sign any of the guys that we want to sign. It doesn't allow us to do all the things that we're talking about, all the things that are beneficial about having a quarterback on the first contract, the rookie contract, would be eaten with one contract.
Okay. Well, let me go back again. And
just play that back tomorrow. That last 3 minutes.
Well, I'm fine with that. I'm totally fine with that. Let me go back over my point so I can, make that. Is the fact that they want to run the football. If you have a Le'Veon Bell back there, he's going to play more traditional quarterback. Jackson is. That's the part you guys are forgetting. You go back to the RPO a lot. They're going to play a much, much more traditional in the sense that he's going to look to hand it off, pass. And if he's open and those lanes are open, then he'll run the football. Don't get me wrong. He'll still run. It's just that he won't do it as often. Look, they're going to have – if a Le'Veon Bell makes it to this team, I'm not saying he is. I said that's my free agent pick. That will be how I would be setting this team up. You could be looking at a team that could run for 3,000 yards. That's unheard of in the National Football League. Time of possession. Hang on.
Real quick. So are you not making the Bell prediction? I want to be clear about this. Are you predicting Bell will sign with us, or are you backing away from that?
I said if I was in his shoes, that's who.
All right. So we're already backpedaling a little. All right, good.
It wasn't backpedaling. I said that was my free agent I would sign Because if you can run 3,000 yards, that's unheard of. That's never been done before in the National Football League. If you watch the last 7 games, yes, they ran the RPO, but they ran for just absolutely mind-blowing numbers in the running game, almost 2,000 yards. Listen, you have to look at that and say, if you could run the football of this team and they can run it, you're looking at time of possession. That's partly why we beat a lot of teams, because we just took the football and said, you're not getting it back. You have to look at that. And if you do sign a Le'Veon Bell and you're in I want to win now mode, that's the kind of guy I think they can go after and get on this team. And every single defense is going to say, if Le'Veon's over there, Gus is over there, and Jackson's there, what am I going to do? It's too much. He doesn't throw the football a whole lot, but he loves those tight ends. I told you last year they would draft 2 tight ends. That's the kind of offense they run. Listen to me now. Le'Veon Bell might just be a Baltimore Raven. I'll move on to the next question. Retool, rebuild, or what are the Ravens going to be doing this season to get themselves back to the playoffs again? And Vince, I'll kick off with you on this one. Are they rebuilding, retooling? What are they going to do?
I mean, I really don't know what you mean by this question, but you know, there is no rebuild.
Give you some.
Here's how I'll answer it.
Yeah.
We are right now within the window of 4 years where we need to take a run at this with Lamar, and or assuming that it's working and long term, but this is the window. So it's not a rebuild, it's a retool. And I think, this year is really about getting our books in order. And I think that is the primary goal here. I think we need to identify the players we want to invest in, longer term. CJ, who knows? I mean, we'll see about probably not Za'Darius, but Jimmy Smith again is more of like an extension or a trade to me, because I think there is an argument you can actually lower his cap number by extending him, but they seem pretty committed to Brandon Carr. So, I think at the end of this is year one, they're going to get the books in order. We got 16 already 20 plus million in dead cap. So I don't think you're going to see a lot of splashes this year. I think this is the year to kind of reset things. We get some pieces around Lamar. We build on last year. We got to nail this draft. Hopefully we can trade down, get some extra picks, and really fortify our roster. You get our books in order, get rid of the dead money, make some decisions about these contracts going forward, and then identify other guys to lock up, like a Matt Judon, other players where, they're going to enter that final year, and Marlon Humphrey eventually in a year or two. I mean, you got to think about extending some of these guys. And then I think next year is where we can even start to think about getting more aggressive in free agency, depending on where we go. But to me, it's part of the 4-year window that we have to execute on. So it can't be a long rebuild. I don't see us blowing up the roster and getting rid of too many guys here, but this is the window. Then they have to structure this roster in a way where they can sustain 4 years of in the playoffs and giving us a shot, because that's how we did it with Joe. We had to knock on the door a few times, and you might have to do that again. So I don't think you're ever in the mode where you can rebuild whatsoever, but you got to keep progressing and structuring the books in a way where you can sustain 4 years of playoff runs, and hopefully that's where we're going.
All right, Al, you can go ahead and go. Retool, rebuild. What is your thoughts coming into this season? Is he rebuilding, retooling, get to the playoffs?
I mean, the Ravens aren't rebuilding. I mean, the Ravens have enough talent on this team to be a competitive football team in this league. So, I mean, I agree with Vince's point. I mean, they're trying to get the cap situation in order and finally get to a place where the Ravens really aren't so close up against the cap that they can't make any moves. They can't re-sign young players. I mean, hopefully Zadarius Smith is going to be the last guy in this mold that they've got to let walk away because they tried to sign him a year too late. I mean, just and waited really until the end of this deal. I mean, we see that happen, just far too often. I mean, when you have a guy that's productive, you've got to get him a year earlier and re-sign him. Um, that's just how it's got to work. I mean, the Costa's got to, I guess you can say, retool. I mean, DeCosta just got to find some players in free agency. Um, while I don't think the Ravens will be too active in free agency, I think that philosophy will stay kind of true to what Ozzy's done in the past. But DeCosta's got to come in with a strong draft, really kind of like Ozzy went out. So I think they've got to draft strong, and they've also got to hit that undrafted free agent pool pretty strong again this year as well. Hopefully to find some offensive linemen, maybe another running back this year as well. But
Okay. Well, we're going to go to draft next. I'll give Bill a chance to log back in. His internet stopped.
okay,
Well, kind of the reason why I'm saying rebuild or retool. Next year's home games, we don't know when that home game is, but we have New England, Pittsburgh, of course, Cincinnati Browns, but tough games, like New England's always going to be tough no matter what. Houston and a couple away games. We got to play the Rams next year, the Chiefs again, Seattle. There's some tough games in there. So that's why I was asking, are you rebuilding or retooling? How do you keep up with an offense that, or the Rams, the Patriots, the Kansas City again? You know what I mean? So that's where the question's kind of going. Does that
You
make sense?
do, yeah. So you do just what they did this year. I mean, so I get tired of everybody in the media saying, "Oh, can the Ravens win with Lamar Jackson? Is this offense sustainable? I mean, he can't run the ball 25 times." I'm like, come on, that's obvious. I mean, you don't need to sit here and just say, "Oh, teams are going to be prepared for the Ravens offense next year." And they're acting like the Ravens are just sitting there not doing anything either. I mean, the Ravens have coaches too. The Ravens are trying to change some things around, stick with some things that work. I mean, at the end of the day, sometimes football is just a hat on a hat, and you got to beat the guy in front of you. You can scheme up as much stuff as you want, but we saw in the Super Bowl. I mean, Sean McVay was supposed to be the best guy to scheme an offense, the best young offensive mind, and he scored 3 points in the Super Bowl when the game, when the biggest lights were on. So I mean, it's going to be a tough schedule next year, but I think it'll be great for if this team can make the playoffs next year for this young team to be able to look back at that and say, you know what, it's just going to add some more confidence. And I agree with Vince's point. I mean, you've got to build a team and win in this window when you have a quarterback that is on a rookie deal, not making a lot of money because you can spend on everybody else to put all of the right pieces around that guy. So this is the time to do it. So hopefully this year is get your books in order so next year they can be a little bit more aggressive than what they've been in the past.
Let me ask you both a quick question because I'm going to say retooling. Do you model the Seattle Seahawks and what they did? Because Russell Wilson was a throwing quarterback. Do you kind of model that?
I mean, in terms of how they built the team, yeah, I think that's absolutely the model. I mean, and it's what we're going to do. I mean, we have the structure of how we build our team. I mean, I don't think it really changes. I think obviously if you're talking the nature of the offense with Lamar, you know, I think you play to his strengths. To me, he's obviously going to progress, but I mean, I don't think we're going to completely change the offense and be this drop back offense. Why would we? I mean, I that doesn't make any sense to me because that's not Lamar's strength. So it needs to evolve. It needs to. I get all that, and we need that. He needs obviously to improve as a passer, but I think we can. We have a formula here. I mean, we showed it. We got to build on it. I think we're going to win differently than the Patriots and Rams. So I don't compare them to the high flying offenses. I mean, look what ended up happening anyway late in the year. So it always tightens up with defense. And, at the end of the day, the Patriots really, and it showed in the Super Bowl, it became their defense that really rode them. Tom Brady was not exactly lighting it up. I think I don't think you have to have the high flying offense that you're thinking that we need. And we need Lamar to be that, that guy. I think you can still build on what we did last year. And obviously, yes, that has to include a very much improved passing game and, frankly, way better ball security. And I think that is the two areas. And then, but I don't think, that's why when I say retool, when you're saying retool, like we have to reinvent this offense, reinvent everything we're doing. I don't see it that way.
Okay, I'll let Bill. So, Bill, question for you is: do you model this Ravens team a little bit closer to the Seattle Seahawks with the Russell Wilson, the Marshawn Lynch, that team from that 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015 years?
No. I think that trying to slot people into something and saying, "Oh, well, we want you to play this role, and we're going to make the Legion of Boom" or whatever. It's just teams are what they are. Our team's just different. So I like Lamar. I am very hopeful that he mechanically is going to come back vastly improved. Hopefully, I'm crossing my fingers for vastly improved. As far as the mechanical aspect of playing the position and, keeping your center and all that stuff and stepping into throws and keeping your base, and accuracy will hopefully go up, and we'll see some more of those bombs connected with and stuff. I don't think there's any need to be like, oh, we're going to do this and that. I like Gus Edwards at running back. The guy only had one negative carry, 2 negative carries on the entire season. I like Gus Edwards. I do think that we need to add talent to the running back spot. Hopefully we come out of the draft with some guys. If we're talking about the draft, I have a couple guys I like. I like Henderson from.
You haven't got there yet.
So all right, well, I'll do what I want.
I wanted to save the draft until you get back on. So just hang on.
And so, I'd like to add some talent to the running back spot. I don't believe that Le'Veon Bell is going to be a Baltimore Raven, so we'll see how it goes. But and so no, I like the running offense that we already have is excellent. If we can add to the offensive line, get a couple guys that are better than the guys that are out there right now. We have. From my perspective, a hole at left guard, and the center spot is mediocre at best. I think that Matt Skura's the upper level for Matt Skura is Mike Flynn. And, Flynn was meh. He was good because he had Mulatalo and Ogden mauling people on the left side, and Zeus and whoever we played on the right side doing their business. And so I like Benny Anderson from back in that day. That was my guy. But yeah, so if we can get some improved talent up front, that's great. And if we can, get a running back that's a little bit more dynamic, also great. I would prefer not to pay $187 million for him.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. All right. So I'll answer the question. Yeah, we're retooling this offense to go more towards Lamar. I think that's pretty obvious. I think they are going to use the Seattle Seahawks as an example of what they can do here with keeping Lamar on that run, just roll him out on some passes a little bit more, give him the option to either run on those or to make those throws. So, yeah, I think we are going to look at them because they had a good defense in those years. And, yeah, I think they are going to have Legion of Boom. They have some pieces already in place that they could do that. Do they draft another guy? We'll get to that in just one moment. But I think the Ravens are looking at that plan. I think they look at that team. Gus Edwards kind of fits a little bit of beast mode, but not exactly. I think that's why you had that Le'Veon Bell in. But I wouldn't be surprised if they do not obviously draft a running back. So talking about the draft, let's go into it. I'll start with Bill because you're the most excited, like me, about the draft. There's obviously some guys you like. Vince, I know you haven't got a chance to really look at it yet. Al, I think you have. So I'll come to Vince last, give him a couple of guys we can talk about and see if he likes them or not. But coming into this at 22, who would you stay for and kind of pick maybe right now? Like, who would you like to kind of see there, Bill? Or are you trading back, and there's somebody you like to trade back you would like to go get in this particular draft? Or anybody you're just in love with?
No, there's nobody that I've fallen in love with. There will be somebody at some point because that's the way I am. But I've looked at basically every wide receiver that's within like the first 4 rounds. Like I've looked at a lot of guys because we have to have receivers out of this draft. We got nobody. We already cut Crabtree. John Brown's probably not going to come back because he's going to want more money and more touches. And Lamar is not an accurate passer down the field yet. And he knows that. And he's hoping to get one last payday. And, he's not going to take another 1 year $5 million contract. If he would, I'd take him back. But he probably won't. So, but as far as the draft goes, my favorite receiver that I've looked at so far is Kelvin Harmon of NC State. I think he has everything we need and then some. I don't know how he's going to test at the combine. All that stuff is important for these guys. But I've watched like 10 games that were on YouTube of him, and he is really good in all but one of them. And so, he got shut down by I can't remember off the top of my head. It doesn't even matter. But he got shut down by somebody at like 2 catches for 9 yards or something. But almost every game is 11 catches for 114 yards. 9 catches for 168 yards. Like he just has game after game after game of just domination, and he is an absolute beast on the field. I also like N'Keal Harry from Arizona State. He's more of like a Keyshawn Johnson slow. He's a little bit slower, but super smooth. He makes moves. He's not that fast. I don't think he's going to test great at Indianapolis. He's probably going to run if he's lucky, he's going to run 4.55 probably. And he's probably going to be looking at more closer to 4.65. But he makes plays. He returns punts for them, and in the open field, he's good. And so I like N'Keal Harry also. He's probably, if I had to guess, a middle of the 2nd round to the beginning of the 3rd round. So if I'm looking at the draft, I try to slide back. We're sitting at 22. I try to move back to 28, 29, 30-ish and pick up another 3rd round pick. It's probably not going to happen unless a team wants to jump back up for the last quarterback. If people start going nuts and Kyler Murray goes number 1 off the board or whatever, and somebody else trades for Josh Rosen and somebody else, whatever, there's a quarterback frenzy in the top 6 picks, unless there's only one guy, Drew Lock sitting out there at 22 and somebody wants to jump up and get him. And at that point, I'm just looking for a bonanza. I want a 2nd round pick and next year's 1st or something like that. I'm just that's all pipe dream. But if we can just as far as reality goes, if we can slide back to 28 or 30 and pick up another 3rd round pick, I'd be very happy with that. And then at the 30 pick, I would take Kelvin Harmon. I'd be very happy to have Kelvin Harmon at 30. There's also
well, hang on. Let me ask you a quick question. What does Kelvin Harmon add to this team? If they picked him, let's say that scenario happens, they move back to get him.
I think he's a number 1 receiver as far as I'm concerned. He's a number 1 receiver. He's an X. He's 6'3" plus, 215 plus, and doesn't move like that. He looks like a smaller receiver moving on the field. Very, very fluid, very quick breaks. He sells his fakes. I saw it 5 times over the course of 10 games. He would sell his fake and look for the ball and even start to put his hands up this way and get the corner to turn and go that way. And then he'd break back to the inside and catch the ball over here. He's just so good. And he, on deep passes, he's not going to be a burner. He's not going to run 4.38 or something ridiculous. He's also probably going to be in that 4.5 to 4.58 range. like the slower end of like whatever receiver ridiculous numbers are going to put up. But on deep balls, he gets behind people and he's so big, but he gets behind him and he's just running full speed like the ball's not there yet, and the ball is already coming over his back, and he doesn't put out his hands until the last second. Like the ball is here, and he goes and catches it, and the DB doesn't even know the ball's coming because he's just running and he sees the ball, but he's not acting like it's coming, and the ball's there. Boop! He does it all the time. He's very good. So I think he could step in right away and be a focal point of the passing game. And in addition to everything that I just said being true, he annihilates people in the blocking game. So,
okay, all right. That's why I'm going to give Vincent all ammunition there. All right, Al. If you're picking at 22, is there anybody you like? Would you trade back? Is there any player you fell in love with? What do you think there, 22?
I mean, of course, if the deal's right, I mean, I would trade back. The guys I like there, I like AJ Brown. I like him better than N'Keal Harry. Um, I, I think he's a solid receiver. Great, some great college production. Um, DK Metcalf, he seems to have all the tools to be great. I just don't like the production from last year necessarily for DK Metcalf. Um, he didn't necessarily have a great year, and AJ Brown kind of stole the show. Um, Marquise Brown, the receiver from Oklahoma, is a solid receiver. I just want to see how big he really is coming at the combine this week, and really just kind of, I guess, more in terms of how much does he weigh, because he's on the very small side to me. The height piece I'm not too worried about because I mean there's a lot of 5'11", 6-foot wide receivers in this league that have been very successful. Probably a lot more than the 6'4" guys that everybody seems to be clamoring over nowadays anyway. So
sorry, I just want to jump in on one thing. He has a very significant injury. He has a Lis Frank injury, which is a break in the middle of the foot. He's not going to be working out at the combine. He's probably not going to be ready for the start of the season. And from my perspective, he is on the do not draft list.
Oh, AJ Brown?
No, Hollywood Brown.
Okay, from Oklahoma. Oh yeah, then yeah. I mean, he's a guy that I'm looking at. I'm looking at in the latter rounds, probably like the third round. I'd take him with one of those 3 picks. So,
would you trade back out? And if you did, is there anybody you like that you trade back?
Look, I don't want to trade back for one reason. Really, for 3 reasons. Derwin James, DJ Moore, and Calvin Ridley. That's why I don't want to trade back. Because if we pass on a guy like that again this year, I don't think I could take it as a Ravens fan. I mean, look, those guys get paid the big money, but I think everybody on this that's on here today wanted Derwin James. If you couldn't get Derwin James, would have loved the DJ Moore. If you couldn't get DJ Moore, would have loved the Calvin Ridley. And the Ravens had every opportunity to take one of those guys. And fair enough. I mean, Hurst was hurt last year, and I saw the post that he put online to show the screw in his foot, and he just got it taken out, and now he's 100% healthy. So we'll see what he can do next year. But I don't want to trade back. I'd stay where they are. I think if anything, if I was the Ravens, I'd certainly try to move up with some of those picks that they have because I don't foresee 8 rookies making this team anyway. So. I think try to trade into the second round.
We'll come back to trade up at the end. So don't talk about
it.
If you stay at 22, trade back. Is there anybody you love? Is there anybody like, hey, right now I really want this guy?
No. I think for me it's either a receiver or you've got to get a pass rusher to replace what I think is going to be Zadarius Smith that's leaving this team. I mean, the names that have been out there are Montez Sweat, I think he's going higher than 22, based on that Senior Bowl performance. Um, I'll be interested to see where the Clemson guys go. Um, Farrell specifically, I guess, because he's kind of more of the edge rusher. But I think he's a solid player. So if he's there at 22, I would take him. By all accounts, it seems like he's going to go much higher than that. Um,
Okay.
or Ja'Kai Polite is somebody I've seen mocked to the Ravens, the defensive end from Florida who had a pretty productive year. So I like the end, and I like defensive end, or I like wide receiver. Um, I I wouldn't be too opposed with the one pick that I've seen out there too. This Cody Ford from Oklahoma. I just didn't think their offensive line was that good, so I don't know if he's the guy for me. So AJ Brown, that's my guy in the first round right now.
All right, Al, this is going to sound kind of crazy. I love AJ Brown. Not love yet. Let me not say enough, but I really do like AJ Brown a whole lot. I think he's the. I think that guy's got Raven written all over him. He's a big body receiver, 60 receptions. We're not going to throw the football a whole lot because we're going to be spreading it around a lot. Those tight ends are going to get the football. Chris Moore's going to get the football. And don't forget, we did draft 2 wide receivers, by the way, last year. Lansley and Scott. So we still have those guys to take a look at. So A.J. Brown to me would be a perfect kind of guy to bring into this team. But I've checked out a few others. I do like where's his name? I'm sorry. It's Brian Burns. I believe he's the defensive end out of Boston. I looked at Zach Allen, another defensive end. I think that's a really good player they could go after. Again, improve the pass rush. I mean, we still have Tim Williams there. You haven't heard anything really from him. This could be a year to give him an opportunity to see if he's a bust or not. But I agree. I like those 2 players. Jacoby Jacobs, I believe, is a running back out of Alabama. I kind of like him. And maybe come in if they're looking to get a running back to add to this team. I've also looked at offensive lineman. I looked at Cody Ford. Yep. What?
Josh Jacobs?
I can't hear you. You cut off.
Go ahead. Sorry. Josh Jacobs.
Josh Jacobs. Yeah, that's his name, Josh Jacobs. I did watch a little bit of footage on him, but I really like A.J. Brown a lot. So if I'm the Ravens and I was trading back, I would probably then look at a running back, maybe at the end of 30, maybe him, maybe David Montgomery, maybe one of those guys to kind of bring in on this team, or an offensive lineman. If they came back to 30 to get a guy, even if they go back into the top of the second round. So I don't know what the cost is going to do, obviously, but if I had to say at 22, I think A.J. Brown's my guy. So, Vince, any guys you like hearing out of what we said, or is there anybody you kind of like you just want to talk about?
First of all, we are spending way too much time talking draft pre-combine, but this is a little early for my taste. But at any rate, I said, I think philosophically at 20, it'll be interesting. I mean, what I have heard about this draft thus far is it's not very deep or top heavy, at least. And that, I don't know how many real first round prospects there are in this draft, unfortunately. So that kind of makes 22 an interesting spot. So, again, I'm still way early in this. So I'm going to keep mine to the national championship game and say, can Christian Wilkins fall, or somehow can we get him, please? Because he's amazing. I don't know. Where's he even mocked it? He's probably mocked top 15, but I haven't really seen much yet. And then Josh Jacobs is the one I was going to bring up too, Rob, because he seems like such a perfect fit for our offense. He is just a downhill beast with athletic. I mean, he's basically Gus Edwards with way more athleticism and just way better of a football player. So, but he has that kind of look and the way he would operate in this offense, I think would be perfect. So, but we'll see. I mean, way early. I think we got to, we have a bunch of third round picks now. So I I think it's almost inevitable we're going to move around because, we're not going to make 3 third-round picks. We're going to try to get a second-round pick, I think, some way, whether that's, trading back, whether that's trading Jimmy Smith for a second-round pick or something. But I don't know. That's all I got on the draft.
That's understandable. I know you're not always the biggest fan of wait until after March Madness. Typically, is when you start looking. I remember.
Yeah, that's when I'm heavy.
I know. That's why I said if you liked anybody we were all talking about. So
Yeah.
I'll go with. It sounds like no one really thinks there's anybody they would trade up for. How about a player that might fall, or would you trade up a few spots to go get? Is there anybody, Bill, you would like if they came like 19th and you said, hey, just shoot up and go get that guy? Is there anybody you think they should move up for?
No, I don't really think. I don't think that there are pass rushers in this draft that I like. I like Jalen Ferguson, and he's probably going to go later than he should, just because of he got arrested and convicted of battery as a freshman because he got in a fight with another dude at a McDonald's. Like I don't care about that. It wasn't a girl. It was another dude. Like yeah, he did it. He beat a guy up. He punched a guy in a McDonald's. And, whatever. He also just broke Suggs' all-time sack record for the college, all-time sack leader. So he can rush the passer. He's big. He's like 6'5", 265. And, he's like, a little bit untapped potential. But we've drafted a player from Louisiana Tech before. I think didn't Dixon come from Louisiana Tech? And so, like, we're already scouting there, obviously. And, it's not like he's an unknown player. But, like he's going to go lower than what he should based upon production and the tools are there. But, from my perspective, I would be trying to get 2 second-round picks. I think all of the value in this draft, like the players between like, I don't know, 18 and 45 are all basically exactly the same. So I'd be trying to slide back into like the low, like the 30 to 32 range. I would like to get a first round pick if for no other reason than I'm going to be watching the whole thing. And if we trade all the way out, I get irritated. But, so if we could trade back like 30, 32 and get like another third round pick to then package and move up into the second and get another guy in like the 45 to 50 range, I'd be right on top of that. Like if we could get like, a 1, 2 and 2 3s and a 4, like out of all those picks, we got whatever 3 fourth round picks and 2 thirds or something. So yeah, if we can end up with like a 1, 2 2s, 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, something out of all that, we're gonna get a big haul of very nice players. If we can get like, I think Denver, the pick we got for Flacco is like 109 or something like that after all the comp picks came out. So if we can get 5 picks in front of 109, I'd be very happy with that situation.
Okay. I'll throw mine in first before I go to you, Al. If Greedy Williams kind of came down and got into the 15 to 17 range, I think I would trade up for him. He's a defensive back out of LSU, 6'3", very nice defensive back. And Bill, me and you talked about this, and you made a very good point. If you move Jimmy Smith maybe back to free safety or something, and then put Greedy on one side, you put Humphrey on the other side, I think that'd be a very nice.
I like where your head's at, but Greedy Williams doesn't tackle. Greedy Williams can't play for this team.
He's not very physical. He's good in coverage.
Yes.
You're going to have to move.
He's extremely good in coverage. He does not tackle. He will not play for this team. He does not tackle. He makes business decision after business decision.
This is mine. So if a Greedy Williams did fall, I still go for him. He's good in coverage. That's the guy I would go for and move Jimmy back to maybe free safety. Al, is there anybody you would trade up for that you like, or anyone that could fall that you would like?
I mean the guys I'd trade up for. I'd trade up for Nick Bosa, Josh Allen, or Quentin Williams if they're there at 15, which is a pipe dream. So I'm not trading up for anybody else in this draft. I feel like the combine's not going to change my opinion of some of these guys, and I don't think there's that much difference between some of the guys that are going to be there for the Ravens at 22. I think that kid Quentin Williams is a monster. Just watching him at Alabama in the Georgia game, he had a solid game. I still think he played well in the even in the national championship game. Um, he's solid. He brings you some pass rush up the middle. He's a great athletic player. I mean, if a guy like that's on the board, I mean, Nick Bosa has a ton of talent, and I think as long as he shows he's 100% healthy at the combine, he's going to be the first pick, and he's going to be the first pick in the draft. But once you start to get down to a lot of these guys that are going to get picked after that, because I think there's going to be a run on edge rushers early in the draft this year, along with quarterbacks. I think Haskins will be the first quarterback off the board. So I think this whole situation just lends to the Ravens trading back this year and not necessarily trading up. I wouldn't be surprised if they traded back into the second round in hopes to get 2 picks in the second round.
Yeah, it would not surprise me that happened either. And the fact that DaCosta's gotten a taste 2 drafts in a row of bundling up a bunch of 3rd and 4th round picks, and he's been hitting on them. So I think he likes that taste.
Yeah, I'll agree. He definitely likes his 3rd, 4th round. He's done a good job in those rounds. So, Vince, is there any particular player you would love that just happened to drop you and move up for? Anybody on top of your head if you can think?
No, not really. Bosa.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm looking for, Bosa. But yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's about it.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll wrap it up then. That's kind of the end. I guess next time we'll meet up. We'll do it right after free agency. Does that sound good to everyone?
Yeah. When does free agency start?
March 13th.
I would say yeah.
Well, I mean, when is let's wait. I don't want to do it right when it kicks off because that's just going to be talking about who's there. Like we should wait like a week after, like 2 weeks after, until the market really the dust settles a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to wait till just before March Madness?
I would say end of March.
Yeah, I don't know what all the dates are. When's the draft this year? Like
the draft is the
April, right?
26th of April.
26th. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So like sometime around April Fool's Day.
Okay, we can definitely come back for April Fools. Do it that week, and then we can do a mock draft. Hopefully, Vince will actually catch up on his draft knowledge, and the rest of us will have an opportunity to see some pro days. The combine, all that kind of good stuff. But you guys sure you don't want to do
Rob, you know I will be there, and you know I'll have the best mock draft. So I don't know.
Well, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and say it now. We're probably going to do a live mock draft on that one. Live mock draft on that podcast.
That's fine with me.
All right, we'll do.
You start out hot with this pre-combine, and then I lap you by April.
Yeah, see the thing. Let's do it Ravens oriented though. I'm not interested in talking about who the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to pick. Like I couldn't possibly care less. Do the whole first round. Fuck it. I don't know. Give them a kicker. More players for us.
Well, the reason why we do that is to take players away so we can see a more realistic look of who's at 22.
I understand.
But if we do a mock draft, it will only be the first round. After that, it's all Ravens oriented. I'm totally down with that. But okay, any final thoughts? I'll roll it out. Any bold predictions between now and April 1st, Bill?
I think we trade Jimmy Smith. I think Jim between now and when? I'm sorry.
April 1st, I guess, or second.
Oh yeah, I think we trade Jimmy Smith. I think like his contract is big. He still has value, but we need that money for other things. Humphrey's a legit player. We just signed Tavon. In the press conference that Eric DaCosta gave today, a reporter asked him, did he foresee Brandon Carr being back? And he was like, yes, Brandon Carr will be back. I love what he does on the field. He plays a number of spots, blah, blah, blah. So those are, I mean, that's the top 3 corners as far as I'm concerned. And Jimmy Smith is, like the 4th wheel on a 3-man tricycle. And so, I think he has value. I would love to get a real pick out of him. I don't think it's probably going to happen just because of the injury issues and the suspension issues. I would love to get a 2nd-round pick out of him. I don't believe that's going to happen. I'm hoping for a 3rd. If we get a fourth, I'll be a little bit irritated, but like it's better than nothing. And I definitely would not cut him because corners have value. But yeah, I think Jimmy Smith gets traded.
Okay. Al, any bold predictions between now and then? Free agency, whatever. You got a bold prediction?
No. I mean, no. It's just still too early. I mean, these next couple of weeks, we'll see. What happens. I think something happens with Jimmy Smith. Of course, I think if they trade him, at best they're going to get a fifth rounder for Jimmy. I don't think they're getting much. I don't think they're getting much more than that personally.
Well, that's a bold prediction. If they got a fifth, are you happy with that, or should they be aiming higher, like Bill said, maybe a third?
That would sicken me. Literally sicken me.
I'm good with the guys they have. I mean, if you can, I mean, you know the top three. I mean, then you throw Averett in the mix. If Kennedy's healthy, and then I mean, I don't know if that Jean Baptiste fella is still under contract. He had a good preseason for them last year before he got injured. So, I mean, you've kind of got six guys right there that can play the corners. They can play the corner spot, and then. So I don't know. I just don't see a team giving up a lot for Jimmy, but I hope I'm wrong. I hope somebody does.
So no bold prediction really from you. You don't think anything bold, nothing at all.
I think the Ravens signed CJ Mosley.
Okay, no tag. They signed CJ. All right, that's bold. All right, then. So you got a bold prediction?
I guess that's bold. That better happen, actually. To get bold. I was gonna do the Jimmy Smith trade, but I mean, other than that, I'll say they end up. Yeah, I'll do the Jimmy Smith trade. I mean, I think that just makes too much sense, but that cannot. I don't know.
Well, give me a bold. Who gets them? Who do you think?
I say, give me the Jimmy for Aguilar trade.
All right, Jimmy for Aguilar for the Eagles because we have a relationship with the Eagles.
Yeah, right. I take that.
Bill, what team for Jimmy? Because you made the Jimmy bold prediction as well.
I'm gonna call the Raiders. It's not gonna be for a first round pick, obviously, but I'm gonna call Raiders for Jimmy Smith. I think I would love to trade him for Aguilar. I don't believe that's going to happen just because of the contracts. Philadelphia doesn't have a lot of money under the cap. They can't switching Aguilar for Jimmy Smith is increasing the cap number that they're taking for that player. So I don't think they would do that trade maybe, or maybe not even be able to do that trade. I don't know. But yeah, I'll call Oakland.
Okay. I'll give mine.
And I wanted to add a bold prediction. They're going to put the second round tender on Pierce.
Okay, that's the bold prediction. Anybody else on the tender they want to put out there? Doesn't sound like it. I'll give you my bold prediction. Obviously, my first one is Le'Veon Bell as a Raven. That's going to happen. You guys can be eating your own, you know what. But more importantly, I think they do make a splash for free agency. There might be an Earl Thomas in Baltimore coming this fall. Don't be shocked if he makes that deal. All right. Well, then we'll bring it all back again in April, right after free agency and the combine, and we'll see where the Ravens stand. We'll see who was right and who was wrong.
Earl Thomas and Le'Veon Bell to Baltimore. We'll see you there.
He owes. They have a $9.3 million option on him right now, so he ain't cheap.
And it ain't cheap to play in the NFL, my friend. But we will be back in April. All right?
All right. Sounds good.